Over the summer, I went to Madison's art fair on the square, and I was with my sister and my mom, and we were looking at this one booth, and this older man came up to me and asked if the drawings that I had on my arm were real tattoos. I then explained to him, no, I just like to draw on my arms sometimes when I'm bored. And he told me, good, because pretty girls like you shouldn't get tattoos because they're manly. He then went on to tell me that his daughters had tattoos and he disapproved of them because they were ugly on women. Then told me that he knew that his opinion made a lot of people mad, but he didn't care and he was going to share it anyways.
All right, so I am on the way to Ari's house. We are going to talk about her experiences with sexism and encounters she's had. This series is in no way meant to make men or women look like bad people. Like, that is totally not the point. I just want to show stories that the news doesn't always cover, that it doesn't have the platform or the range to cover all the time. I want to talk about small town problems. Like, this happens everywhere. I know that people know that it happens everywhere, but I want to show that it's real, it's a problem, and it needs to be fixed. So the first stop is Ari Manghera, so let's go. Editing is a good thing. My pants are already falling down. This is a great start. Okay, so, oh god, so I have a couple questions.
Okay.
We went over them.
Yeah.
You know what to expect.
Yeah.
So this is Ari, everybody.
Hello.
She is the first interviewee. So can you just recap the situation?
Yeah, okay. So my mom, my sister, and I were at the art fair on the square, and we were looking at some art, and this older guy came up, and he was like, I had drawings on my arm, and he was like, are those real tattoos? And I didn't know who this guy was. He was like also just there, and he was like, I was like, oh no, sometimes I just draw on myself. And he was like, oh, well, that's good, because like pretty girls like you shouldn't get tattoos just because it'll ruin like prettiness or being a lady. And it was kind of weird because then he admitted to me like, oh, I know that a lot of people don't agree with my opinion and my views. Then I don't understand why he would say it in the first place and make like a big deal out of it, especially because I didn't know him. He just came up to me.
That seems unnecessarily intrusive and rude.
Yeah.
And not surprising because, let's be real, with the way that things are nowadays.
Yeah. And like I understand, like he was part of an older generation, different views, different generations, but at the same time, with the constantly changing world, especially saying that to somebody I think my age.
Yeah. It's weird. And it's just like, I get that you grew up in a time, not you, but like him. Like, yeah. I get that he grew up in like a time where like many people didn't get tattoos.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, the way the world is now, like, you can't be sheltered. Like, I know you're not sheltered. Like, you have to know the way the world is, so.
Exactly. And like he said, like
crazy.
His daughters had them and stuff too.
And it's like, didn't he say that he didn't accept of them either. Like he
yeah,
like,
he
told
didn't
them.
like that they had tattoos.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's.
He thought it ruined like beauty of like women, and I understand that, but at the same time, it's not his place whatsoever.
And it wasn't even a tattoo.
No,
it was a drawing on your arm. Like these are tattoos.
Those are
Do you think that sexism has gotten worse or better? Like, do you think that?
It's hard to say, especially with the political climate of what just recently happened and everything. I would say it's getting better than it was like 50 years ago, just seeing
Agreed.
where women are in the workplace and where they sit. But it's still, like the older generation or anybody watching what's recently been happening in the news, there's certain people whose ideals still align with that thinking. But then at the same time, I think it goes both ways. Women can be very sexist towards men.
Oh yeah.
About like children and about stuff like that. And so I think people are just willing to find whatever is wrong with somebody else to make themselves feel better, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a gender is an easy thing to pick on. It definitely goes both ways.
Like it can be both ways. We see it more prominently with men towards women because the men are usually in power and they take advantage, and it's annoying.
Yeah.
Stupid. Whatever. Do you think that men feel like they have this power and they can just do this? Like, do you still think that they have this mindset?
I think growing up history, like I couldn't name you a handful of women from history who made differences, because you just learn through watching men, especially here in like the United States. Just men pretty much did a lot of what we now know as our government and all that stuff, but they had that place of power that they had the power to do that, they had the place to do that. So it's a little difficult, especially seeing only men presidents, seeing mostly only male like business owners like Rockefeller and all those big ones from like oil and stuff. It's all men, and so it's hard for, I think, a young woman to grow up trying to put herself in that spot, and it's easier for men to immediately think that they have that advantage just because history's on their side.
And it must suck, because for a woman, like, you grow up, but you don't have these role models. Like, you don't have the women in power, so you probably don't grow up. I'm just saying, this is like, I feel like they grow up thinking like, I can't be that because I don't see anybody else doing that.
Yeah, it's hard
which sucks.
to just be, it feels like we're like almost a step behind.
Yeah.
Constantly, but then there's also people like RBG.
I know, it always seems like we're so close.
Yeah.
And then we get right back there.
Like there's people like RBG in the Supreme Court, and love her, and certain people like in history like Rosa Parks, and just strong women that did make that step. But then there's also so many men that have made so many other steps, and even if somebody isn't predominantly have like a sexist mindset, they are at a significant advantage just because of the male hierarchy.
Where do you personally feel that sexism is more prominent? Like workplace, school?
Oh, I feel like for women in the workplace specifically, and for men in school.
Have you had any other experiences with sexism?
I think I've had probably like minor experiences.
Have you had any in college yet? I know you've only been in college for a month and a half, but have you noticed or had anything happen?
It's interesting because Edgewood is like 80% women, so the men are actually...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's predominantly a female enrolled school, so there's not that many guys at school.
Dang.
So they're almost at that disadvantage where, like, I'm sure from their point of view they see like that women are gonna have the step up, especially because it was like founded by nuns, and like it's always been very women based, and it's
You guys are so close to UW-Madison.
Yeah.
So I wonder sometimes, like,
we have this trail that goes along the back of the campus, and it's covered by trees, and I think my first day of orientation they told me not to go back there at night. And Madison is fairly safe for a city. It's also very liberal, so there's not too much hate that goes around.
Yeah.
But they definitely tell you not to go out at night. I have pepper spray on my keys. I have to walk home from from rehearsal at like 10 o'clock every night. And it's freezing. I want to put my hood up. I want to put my headphones in. Can't do that. You have to, the only way to stay safe is to be overly prepared. So I'll have my pepper spray and I'll be like looking around constantly, but that's honestly the only way to, because the second that I don't do that is the second something bad could happen.
Do you personally feel safe at your college?
I feel safe, but there are times that I worry just because I'm fairly small and I could be an easy target sort of a thing. Not super strong, don't have a lot I could protect myself with. So that's scary, especially when I live on the other side of campus. I'm the one dorm that's like farthest from the campus. So it's that creates a little bit of a fear walking home and that kind of stuff. And you still get worried when you see people with like their hoods up, just like their hands in their pockets walking around at night. That's definitely a fear, and that's happened. And but it's mostly at night. Other times of the day, I'm fine. But yeah, at night, it's a worry, especially if I'm by myself.
Oh, yeah. I feel that. Like, even going to, like, State Street for me after it gets dark is just...
State Street after dark is...
terrifying.
Yeah, it's really scary.
Even though, like, I've never experienced anything, it's still that... like, you don't know.
That's where I've, like, gotten catcalled the most, or I've gotten comments made, or looks and stuff. It's State Street at night, which is weird because it's a safe spot during the day. There's shopping, there's people out and about.
Like all around. Yeah, I don't get it. What advice would you have? How would you tell people to handle situations that they encounter?
It's interesting. Probably you have to be the bigger person. And if people don't believe you and if people disagree with you, as long as you're true to yourself about it, that's what matters the most. As long as you know what happened and you know how you feel about it, people are always going to disagree. But you just got to keep going. I mean, those people don't mean anything in the long run. You know, if you know what you're doing and you know how you're living your life, then you don't have to worry about it as much.
To talk with people in depth about it is rewarding.
Yeah, definitely.
In a way. But yeah, all right, well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Of course.
Sister. All right, you can the start button. You can just hit it again.